Hi, this is Tasha, the Crafty Crown. I'm going to show you how to make a healthy chocolate cake today. So you want to get all your, I have all my ingredients lined up here. You're going to need 3/4 cup of gluten-free, or you can do regular flour. I have half. I have half gluten-free flour and I have half oats, oatmeal, just the ground oats. So I have 3/4 cups of my oats. I have a 1/3 cup of cocoa powder. I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Let's see, I have a cup of unsweetened applesauce. And what I did is I didn't fill the cup up all the way with applesauce. I filled it just right below a cup, and then I added a little bit of water just so it wouldn't be as dense. I have a 1/3 cup of brown sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla. So what I'm going to do is I have my little bowl here for my dry ingredients. I'm going to mix, I'm going to have to read how, okay, I'm going to have to, so you preheat your oven on 355. I have a convection oven, so I'm going to do mine at 335. I have my pan, which you can spray and line with the spray, and then I always do a parchment paper on the bottom just so it comes out good, and never have a problem with it coming out. This cake does not rise a lot because it's just the gluten-free, I guess, texture, and there's it just doesn't rise a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 of these, and I'm going to stack them on top of each other with the filling in the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and mix my ingredients. So I have my flour, my flour, my cocoa, and this is just for one cake. I'm going to make another one. My cocoa, hold on just a second. Okay, my cocoa, my salt, baking soda, baking powder. So I have all this together, and you want to make sure it is combined really good, because you want the baking soda and baking powder to be mixed up really good. So I just have a little whisk, and I'm just going to whisk it together. Make sure I get everything incorporated. And then I'm going to put this through a sifter as well, just so that the flour isn't clumpy. Oops. Alright, so I have this. I'm just going to set this aside for right now. And now in another bowl, okay, in a separate bowl, you're going to mix your wet ingredients. So I'm going to do my wet ingredients. I think I'm going to just do it in this measuring cup. Okay, and the wet ingredients are the brown sugar, vanilla, and the applesauce. Okay. I'm just going to get all this out of here. Done my dry ingredients in the big bowl, because I'm going to add the wet ingredients into that, but it doesn't matter. Alright, so I'm just going to incorporate that, mix it up real good. And then alright, let me get my sifter. Alright, so I'm going to take my sifter and I'm going to sift my flour into the bigger bowl. And again, you want to do this to make sure that your flour doesn't have any clumps. I usually sift all my, any kind of dry ingredients I have when I'm making cakes or icing or anything like that. Just want to make sure that it's nice and silky and smooth. Okay. So we have that. I'm going to have to make another cake, so I'll leave all my stuff out to make the second one. Okay, so now you're just going to take your wet ingredients and mix it into your dry ingredients. And believe it or not, but that is all you need to do. Okay, so I'm going to mix this up real good. And then you're going to put this in your pan. Your spray pan. Make sure it's sprayed good, and you have a piece of wax paper on the bottom. You don't have to put the wax paper on the bottom, but just make sure it comes out even. Alright, so this is, it's kind of the texture that the batter is. Make sure you have all the batter off the sides. Okay. And this is a vegan, gluten-free. If you use the gluten-free flour, it's gluten-free cake, and it's actually pretty healthy. There's you know, not a ton of sugar or anything in it. I'm going to spray my pan. There's also another trick with the wax paper. You don't actually have to put the wax paper on the entire bottom of your pan. If you just put a little piece in there, it actually will not stick. Your cake won't stick. It'll still come off nice and even. But I'm going to, it's going to kind of score my just so I kind of see where it's going. And then I cut right in the inside of there. And this is for a baby shower. I'm just going to make a chocolate cake with chocolate vegan icing, and I'm going to do a little baby sports theme on the top of it. Okay. So you're going to put your wax paper on the inside of your pan, and that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and put my batter in here. It's kind of, if you're not used to making vegan or gluten-free, the texture is kind of different. It's a lot more dense, I guess. And again, this cake does not rise a lot, so don't be alarmed. Just have to make 2 of them and stack them on top of each other so that you don't have a skinny little cake. Alright. Now you're going to put this in the oven, at your preheated oven at 355, or if you have convection, I do mine at 335. And it is going to bake, let's see, for about 20 to 35 minutes, depending on your oven, and your toothpick wants to come. You want your toothpick to come out clean in the center. You really can't go wrong. There's nothing in here that needs to be cooked to a certain temperature because it's all, you know, it's applesauce and sugar and vanilla. So it's not like you can get sick if you didn't cook it right. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in, and I'll show you the cake when we are done. Okay, so here's my cake. I turned it out on a wire rack so it can cool, and here, this is still the wax paper. I'm going to leave that on there. Once it cools, I don't want it totally cold, but once it cools pretty much to touch where it's kind of just warm, I'm going to wrap it in saran wrap and put it aside, and that way it'll stay moist, because the cake, this kind of cake is pretty dense, so it'll stay nice and moist. And then I'll put it aside, and then I will in another video I'll show you how I decorated it. Again, this is going to be for a baby shower, so I'm making another layer to stack on top of it, because as you can see, it's a pretty thin little layer, so it'll at least be that tall. But anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.